Okay, so I've got another question here. Last year, you created all my operating documents. Now I'm looking at selling the gym and moving on. Not exactly sure what to do, but I've heard I should talk to you first. So, assuming somebody has the operating, like an operating doc with partners or whatever, and
Yeah.
they are going to sell, like, should they talk to an attorney, Matt, or what should they be asking you?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the best time is always just to get somebody like me involved as early in the process as possible, because there's about four different options when it comes to, say, like an LLC. If we're going to sell a gym, right, and that's just a general terms, we're going to sell a gym, and I'm like, well, okay, um, are you selling an interest in your LLC? Are you selling the LLC? Are you only selling the assets? Are you selling all of the assets? It's like there's like a whole list of questions we have to go down through, kind of like, I'll get on that soapbox one more time. I come into your gym, I want to lose weight. Cool. Okay, there's like a bunch of different follow-up questions we need now. Okay, so um, they, if you have all of the legal documents, that sort of that we touched on a few moments ago, when you're like setting up a partnership with somebody else, this process can go like so much smoother. Okay, then then if you don't, especially if you have partners, because now again we've got to kind of get like everybody on board, and it can just cost a little bit more money. But the worst thing that you can do if you're selling your gym is sell your gym on a handshake. Okay. And we see that happen. And it blows my mind that like somebody calls me up and they're like, hey, I bought a gym last year. Here are all the problems. And I go, cool. Did you have like, how did you buy the gym? And they're like, well, I gave somebody $150,000. I'm like, okay, great. Do you have a legal document? And they're like, no, they just, I gave them $150,000. They gave me the key. I'm like, there's so much now we have to unwrap. Like, what? Hold on, I'm never giving anybody $150,000 for a key, right? Like, there are legal steps that you need to go through. From a seller's perspective, there are tax implications here. If you're only selling your assets through what's called an asset purchase agreement, you're just selling the equipment, you're just selling the couches, whatever the brand, maybe the CrossFit affiliation, if you're a CrossFit gym, but you're keeping the LLC. Well, okay, that's fine as an owner, but you have to understand that, like, as the seller, you're only selling assets and you're maintaining all liability. Okay, and then there's advantages and disadvantages to that. Same thing on the buyer's side. If you're buying in, some people just buy into these LLCs, and they don't sell the LLC properly. And then there's this gray area of, well, who now maintains the liability before and after the sale? There's advantages to somebody buying only assets, but we need to walk through all of these steps. And then we need to make sure that we're papering all of this so that, especially, from a buyer's perspective, I always kind of in jest say this, but it's serious, is you buy my gym or you buy my assets. Okay, let's just say you buy my assets, and then you don't set it up all properly. You don't have any purchase documents or anything else. And you go and you build my X gym up to gross revenue of $1 million. Well, what's to stop me as the seller from coming back and making a claim that part of that is mine? Because our actual agreement was that I was just selling you a part of my gym, not the whole thing. And we were supposed to continue to share revenue. So now I want my piece. And yeah, my claim might be bogus, but now you, as the buying gym owner, have to expend all kinds of annoying attorney's fees, in order to defend the gym that you already paid $150,000 for in order to get a key.
This can go wrong on the seller side too. I mean, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have proper documentation, heaven forbid somebody gets injured at that gym after you sell it, and
Yep.
on all of the legal documents, you're still the owner, you're probably
Yeah.
still liable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point because I'll get a little bit in the weeds on this one because this was just a situation I was dealing with yesterday. Guy calls me out of Washington, Washington State, not DC, Washington State, and he bought a gym back in, I don't know, September or whatever, and he never changed. He never went online. So every state has some variation down here of a Secretary of State or a Department of State or somewhere where you actually file these LLC documents and things. And so one of the things that you have to do is you have to go on after you buy a business. If you buy like the LLC and everything else, you have to go on and update all of these documents so that the public online filing shows that now you are the owner and not me. But he never did that. And so if one of his gym members right now gets injured and they go to an attorney and the attorney goes online to figure out who owns the business, it's going to go to the seller. And the seller is the one who's now going to get, and the seller can potentially, there's no other documents involved in the sale. So the potential of that seller being able to push liability off onto the buyer is questionable. But at the very least, a constable or a sheriff is going to show up at that old owner's house, the seller's house, with legal papers because they're still listed as the owner of the LLC.
Oh my goodness. So many problems.